Hey everybody, sorry, I was looking down getting this mic set up. Welcome to the Henophess Morning Show, um, where we talk about real health rooted in real traditions. In this show, nothing that we talk about is intended to diagnose, treat, prescribe. It's intended for educational purposes only. I have some kids playing in the back room, so you might hear a little bit of kids playing and other things like that. I'm going to be quiet for a second, see how much we pick them up. Sounds like we're not picking them up too much, but they might be kind of in the background. So today we're going to talk about stress. Stress, that's a big thing today, right? And there's so many different varieties of stress. We name stress so many different things. But what it boils down to for me is how the nervous system is working, right? How the nerves are running through the body. And before I really get into that too much, a little bit about me. I'm Scott James. I grew up with 8 sisters and 2 brothers out in the middle of nowhere in New Mexico. And this has been my main course of study for the past 20 years in health. My dad delivered most of us at home. The herbal formulas I use came over my dad's 40 years of working with clients. Something wasn't working. He makes something to get the job done. And then I decided I was going to do what my dad did. Ran his clinics, ran my other clinics. He passed away. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to get into sales for a while so I can get some more people. And then I go off to Utah after I shut down all of my clinics. And then I'm in Utah and I don't know anyone. And I decided, I felt real strongly, okay, I need to get back to selling, get back to working with clients. So I do it. And within a year, I was seeing 140 clients a month. So, and that was just by helping people get better, not advertising. You get somebody better, they talk about you. So my dad always said he never advertised a day in his life, and we were able to support ourselves, and the business was able to grow and function. So I've always wanted to create the miracles Dad did, and one of the things that's near to my heart, because I've seen it make a huge difference in my relationship, is the nervous system and how it's operating. Right. So the nervous system, stress, and you have all of those different words for hyper emotions and emotions that have been pushed down. You have all of these different terms out there, medical terms or whatever, for all of these different things. And so, what it boils down to for me, as I said earlier, is the nervous system. Even like if you have tremors, if your hands don't hold together very well, or you can't remember, things like that, that's still the wiring that goes through your building. The wiring that you have from stem to stern. So the wiring that makes your fingers move versus the wiring that makes it so you can feel versus the wiring that makes us feel emotionally stressed or the wiring that makes us feel like it's all the very similar wiring. And as I see it, we need to give nutrients to that wiring. We need to help it to operate properly. Have you ever lived in a house? My wife and I, when we were first married, the second place we lived, we were in a place that didn't have great wiring. If we had the lights on and we turned on the microwave, it would flip a breaker. We most definitely couldn't turn on the microwave and the toaster. It just, the wiring, the breakers just couldn't handle it. And there's times when we feel that way. I felt that way before. And I know my family has specifically felt that way. That my wife has felt that way when she visits her family or other things like that. Hold on one second. Of doing a radio show in your own home. You have noisy kids and they're over there playing. And so I just went in there and told them, okay, you should be a little bit more quiet. So even if you couldn't hear them on there, I could hear them, and my brain was just like, so to speak of stress. So there's things that we can do for stress. Okay. Now, everybody's like, oh, just don't do stressful things. That's dumb. How are you going to avoid stress in your life? How are you going to do that? It's just not possible to avoid stress. It's going to happen. There's good stress, there's bad stress. This is stress. You're stressing your nerves. Any movement, me talking is a form of stress or use. So instead of saying stress, it's like it gets used. So every time we feel overwhelmed or we feel these emotions, it's that the nervous system has been used to the point that now it's fatigued. Have you ever worked out a muscle to the point that you just can't work it anymore? Or held something to the point that you just can't hold it anymore? And that can be the same thing with your nerves. You've just held on to this emotion so long, you just can't hold it anymore. You've held in these feelings so long, you just can't hold them anymore. You've carried all of this weight for so long that it's just compressing you. So, how do you manage or deal with or with those things? How do you move forward in this life that is so stressful? There's stresses. So the easy answer for me, there's always like, oh, just take this or take that. And yes, there are some things that I've seen work as in taking. My wife and I, it used to be that we'd go and visit her family. And anytime we'd visit her family, she would end up crying and falling apart and not want to go back. And but we by the time a new holiday rolled around, she forgot all that and wanted to go back. And then same thing would happen over and over and over and over. She just we didn't get along well with her family, especially without me there. When I was there, it actually went over better, but when I wasn't there, it was really bad. So I started doing something when we started to go in for Christmas, and she was stressed out because this was we were about 4 to 5 years of not being able to have a baby. All of our other siblings that got married before us already had babies, and so there was a lot of stress on top of the fact her family already stressed her out. And so I started giving her some of our formula called Stress Less before we went in to visit the family, and I gave her 3 of them. And then I would see her starting to kind of get worked up. And then when she got worked up, I would hand her 3 more where no one could tell, and she could go to the bathroom and excuse herself and take it, and no one knew she was taking it. And then by the end of that trip, we were just there for a day, and because they were close enough, it could just be a day thing. And by the end of that day, she was like, "Wow, they changed. That was awesome. Let's stay longer." But they didn't change, as you know. It just actually was she didn't get as worked up. She didn't have as much of a problem. It didn't stick to her as much. And that's one of the things that convinced her that I knew what I was talking about. That what I was doing with clients and other stuff works because it worked for her. And out of any of the other herbs, that's something that she would consistently use and take, and it wasn't a concern, or it wasn't as hard for her. I couldn't get her to take other herbs so much. It took 5 years of being infertility, or a little bit. Yeah, it was 5 years of infertility before she's like, "Fine, I'll take your herbs." And actually, this is one that we early on she could take, um, and it's what convinced her and helped her believe, okay, yeah, the herbs work. Okay, so that's one aspect of something that you can do, of herbs, of course, but giving nutrients to the nervous system. Now, maybe you have herbal formulas that you know that give nutrients to your nervous system. You want to give enough of it nutrients to your nervous system to get to the point that you're absolutely on top, that everything is perfect. There's some buzzing thing, some kid set off an annoying phone right by where I'm working. 1 second. This is going to be an interesting one, right? I mean, I'm going to have to move where I'm doing this and try to get as far away from the kids as possible. because they have no concept of they're having fun, they're playing, and that's important. And maybe next time I'll take some of the stress less for myself. So the there's filling up the new nervous system. So if you have herbs that are, like, okay, this helps or that helps, wonderful. Use those herbs. There's so many different herbs that are wonderful. Like chamomile is calming to the nervous system, and that's actually in one of the formulas. And you have um, valerian's very commonly mentioned. Valerian is more of a nerve stimulant, actually. Hops is more of a nerve relaxant. It actually relaxes the nerves and helps it to calm down. And if you get a good combination, generally it's going to have nerve stimulants and nerve relaxants like have skullcap and hops and valerian and a variety of others that actually help to create balance and fill up the whole nervous system with nutrients. And most of the time, the reason that we have an issue, most of the time that the nervous system is breaking down and getting to the point where we're just like, oh, I can't handle it, is it's hungry. It needs the nutrients. It needs the food to feed the nervous system and help it to operate and be strong. So at any point, you can call in. The number is 816-826-1533. So if there's anyone out there actually live right now, this is only the fourth one, and I just need a place to be able to express this information. And then I'm taking in little clips, put it on TikTok and other stuff like that. But if you want to call in, the number is 816-826-1533. You can also find it down in the description. There's the phone number down there as well if you wanted to see it so you can call in. So at any point, you're welcome to call in and ask any question that you'd like to ask. So feeding the nervous system, there's things that make it hard for our nervous system to operate, and there are things that help our nervous system. One of the things that actually affects it drastically is how much water we drink. If you do not drink enough water, you will have more issues with your nervous system, whether it's getting hyper or it's hypo, or whether it's pushed down or whether it's way up. Your nervous system will benefit from getting the right nutrients to regulate. Herbs don't necessarily just hard push one direction or the other, and sometimes I guess sometimes they do to some degree in this instance, because you have nerve stimulants that can stimulate the nerve, and you have nerve relaxants that can relax the nerves. And when you use them in the right combinations, you actually have a nerve regulator versus a nerve stimulant or relaxant. And that's why these herbs came over time, is because understanding the way formulas should be put together. And my dad, over his 40 years of working with clients, put this formula together that helps to actually, and this one is Nerve Restore. We use it along with the Stress Less. Stress Less is like for those extreme emotions of right now, where the Nerve Restore is a combination of nerve stimulants, nerve relaxants, things that go to the nervous system and feed it and give it the ability to ramp up if it needs to, and give it the ability to relax if it needs to. Gives it the ability to move whichever direction that it might need to move. And so it gives it the operation ability to function and move and do what it's supposed to do. If you just gave it one, or how there's I guess we're on a major subject of the herbal formulas today. The nervous system really requires food. There are a lot of skills that people use that I use a lot of those, but I find that those skills of writing activities and other processes don't work as well unless there's enough nutrients in the nervous system. And if you're not going to get my formula, you at least need to get one that has a variety of the nervines that are stimulants and relaxants. And hopefully they've combined them together in the way that they're going to synergistically balance the nervous system. So as you synergistically balance the nervous system through these herbs, the wiring in your house starts to get better. The wiring in your house starts to actually work. You can have your toaster on, and you can have the microwave on, and you can have the oven on, and you can have your lights on. You can just handle it all. But sometimes we're just at that point that we can keep our running lights on. We can just do the day to day, and that's it. And we need nutrients in that nervous system to be able to handle it. Now, we can get our hands starting to move funny if we don't have enough nutrients in the nervous system. We can get twitches. We can get, you name it, neurological things happening if the nervous system is overwhelmed or stressed out. Now, as I was mentioning, water has a profound influence on these emotions because what regulates moving out the things that transmit our electricity, that get the signal sent from one spot to the other, is going to have to leave in the urine. So everything that you consume that makes it so your brain can communicate with other parts of your body, your other part communicates with your brain, and the electricity that goes through your body, what you consume that does that has to leave through your urinary tract or your sweat. And the only way it's getting out is if it can get into the water. And only so much can be held into water at once. If you want to know more about water, watch the water podcast. But you have to get in water. If you're getting enough water, then you're getting rid of all of this extra electricity, all of this extra anxiety and things like that. And if you feel like your brain's going 100 miles an hour, but your physical body isn't, it helps to get rid of those things. It helps to wash them out. So you should be at least getting 40% of your body weight in ounces, but you might need quite a bit more than that for a while to be able to get everything on top of it. So someone is calling, but I'm not sure. Let's see. Hello? This is Henophess Morning Show. I guess it wasn't anyone. I didn't think it was because people that call me from New Mexico are just like, I don't know, it seems to be the scams or whatever. That's where I grew up. That's where my phone number is. Okay. So if you do want to call in, that remind me, the number is 816-826-1533. So the water is so essential in getting rid of these extra salts. It's the salts that send all these extra signals and make everything feel more intense. But if you get at least your water that at least the 40% of your body weight in ounces, then it'll start to move through. You can get more than that. And there's other things that affect emotions, but that's the easiest one to like say without like being able to test and figure out if it's contributing to. Okay. There's writing activities you can do, so many different things. So we've got nutrients, okay? We got that covered. And the using nervines that are both stimulant and relaxant nervines that create a balance to the way that everything operates. That creates a balance in your nervous system so it regulates and does what it's supposed to. I can't tell you how many different individuals I've worked with that have gotten to the point they couldn't handle normal life. They got to the point that they couldn't even handle being around their kids. They couldn't handle just the things that should be enjoyable about their family, let alone the hard things about it. And just had to step back and not even be involved hardly with it. And then by using the right nutrients for their nervous system, they're able to operate again. It's just amazing to see those kinds of things actually happen and happen more with clients. It's amazing what the ability for somebody to heal and function when they have the nutrients in their nervous system, how they're like, oh, it's not me that's broken. It's not that it's just a problem of being broken. It's that there's actually my nutrients, my nervous system is filled up and I can be nice. And sometimes it's hard to be nice or hard to care or anything like that because the nervous system is just so wiped out and so lacking in nutrients that it just can't operate. Maybe you've been there before and you need some more nutrients. Now there are times when we've got all the nutrients there that we filled up and it's not a nutrient. And if it's not a nutrient thing, there's activities, there's actually things that you can do that are really helpful. I'm gonna see if this lets me do this. I would like to draw something for you. Let me see if it does it. Okay, it looks like it's actually going to show us this here. Double checking. Okay, is this working? First time drawing on here. Okay, the drawing does work. Let's delete this, and then I'm going to draw for you. So, in our life, the results that we get in life have to do with a couple different things. So, first, we need to have an understanding of, we need a basic understanding here. There's in our brain, there's what's called a RAS, a reticulating activating system. And it prevents us from seeing anything that is not familiar. Have you ever bought a new car or got something new and it seems like now everybody has that? You see it everywhere. It's not that everybody went out at the same time as you and bought something new. It's actually that you now see it. It became familiar to you. Your RAS is letting it get through. So there's our RAS that makes it so we continue to get what we've always got. If we believe we're always going to be stressed out and life is stressful, and that's what our RAS thinks, guess what? No calming thing can make it through because it's not part of our reality. Our reality is everything stressful. And so our body only sees stressful things are able to make it through and be recognized in the brain. But all unstressful things get to bounce off. You may have heard the thing, as a man thinketh, so is he. Okay? As we think, and people talk about the law of attraction and other things like that. What it really comes to, largely on a physical standpoint, is training your RAS. Training, you kick it in the RAS to get it through, that of being kind or being nice and seeing all of these positive things and seeing people that are positive and seeing things that aren't stressful. Sometimes stress has been such a part of your life that you don't know how to see anything else. And so being able to take control of this, the first step is recognizing that it's there. There's something there that makes it so what is familiar to you is what continues to show up. And then the next step is to actually start to consciously regulate your RAS, to consciously choose what is able to pass through, to teach your brain. You've heard people do affirmations, right? Those affirmations are a way of training the RAS. There's other ways of training the RAS to allow positivity. Okay? So one of the things is being able to recognize it, to recognize what is actually going on. Now, you are either a victim, and this is the way we draw out a victim. So either the outside world dictates how you feel on the inside, or your inside world dictates what happens on the outside. So hard to draw with a mouse. Here we go. So it's either your outside world dictates how you feel in the inside, or your inside world dictates what happens on the outside. Now, oftentimes we think, how is that possible? And when I first heard this, I was like, no, you can't change others. You can't change what's happening. You can't make it so your inside world changes your environment and makes it better. You can decide how you feel about what other people do, but you can't improve the outside world. How are you supposed to do that? How's your inside world supposed to dictate the outside world? Obviously, victim at that point. But as I was pondering, as I learned these, as I did these activities, I found out how this is possible. And I want you to have just the beginnings of understanding of this, just the beginning to feel this and understand what this means. So, the results we get in life, what we get in life, what we get out of life is dictated by a couple different. So, Keep saying so a lot. I'm trying to get better at that. We have this tree here, and this is our outside world. And there's three main roots that dictate the results that we get in life. Three main roots that dictate these results. These roots are what we think of ourselves. Let's see if we can get what we think of ourselves. Selves. Okay, so there's what we think of ourselves. What you think of others. What you think others think of you. Okay, so there's what you think of yourself, what you think. All right, there's what you think of yourself, what you think of others, and what you think others think of you. Those are some of the main things that determine the results we get. Oftentimes, we have this result we want. So there's this apple that we want to grow on the tree. We just have this one result we want, right? Just this little thing. And so what we do is we water that apple specifically. We even pull out the branch and catch the water so it doesn't go anywhere else. So we just get it on that apple because we don't want to waste that water. And then we fertilize that apple. We put the poop right on the apple and we make sure that apple gets sunlight. But that, as much as we focus on just that result, it doesn't often help it. And often it actually makes it worse. And it seems to get worse the more we focus on it, because we don't realize that the fruits that we get, the results that we get in life, are dictated largely by these roots. And so you say, how does I can see the way that a tree's roots make this grow, but how do these separate things actually affect the results we get? How do these affect actually me changing from being having the world make me fall apart versus my inside world is strong and dictates what happens around me? Well, there's actually a thing called body language that shows some of this. In our brain, this is just an example, okay? So, but this is a pretty close example. Scientists have said it. We have about 750 words per minute that can be used for any given conversation. 750 words, okay? That our subconscious will give our conscious mind to try to explain what's going on. And then we can only speak at the high side about 150 of these a minute. So there's still 650 words that aren't being expressed. You know, when you're talking to this person that's just overwhelming and just, I want to have a good relationship with you, but I really don't like you. You could be saying all the nice things, trying to be nice and just trying to deal with this person and like saying, I love you. But your body language could be, in a sense, flipping them off. Not to that extreme, but your body language could be saying, I hate you, I want to strangle you, your tone and those things, because you're filtering out and saying the nicest words you can think of, and they aren't always true. They're just what you want to say because you want to have a good interaction with this. But inside, you're thinking, oh, I hate this person. I hate the way they talk. I hate the way they look. I hate the way they speak. Or maybe it's not that extreme, but you get my point. That's going to show up in your tone, in your body language, in the way you feel. You've probably felt that in being around someone and their words are like honey and so sweet, but you're like, I think you're a mean person. Like it just feels like you're so fake. And that's what makes people feel like you're fake because your body language is expressing everything. Those individuals that are scared of something because it's happened to them more than once will actually express body language saying, I'm an easy target for this to happen to me. Unless you take control of it and recognize it, you could be putting off signals saying, let's do it again. And you could also be sending off signals that provoke people. If you always have a bad interaction with somebody, you could be provoking them with your body language while trying to appease them with your mouth. And what is going to regulate that? That your mouth is consistent with your words, so people think you're honest and actually will start to change the results you get in life is by managing these roots, by managing what you think of yourself, what you think of others, and what you think others think of you. As you actually manage these separate roots, one at a time, by which one's your weakest, as you manage these roots, you'll find that you will get better results with people, that people won't trigger you the same way. They could still be their nasty, grumpy selves, but you get to decide what other people think of you. You don't know what they really think. And is it beneficial to think they think negatively of you? No, it is not beneficial to think that they have anything negative to say. Oh, icon thing. What is this? Oh, it's page 1 of 1. Okay, that's what it is. So it's not positive to think that they think negative or that they are mad at you or anything like that. That's not necessarily beneficial. It is beneficial to switch to the positive. Now, you need to be realistic and recognize and see people and make good decisions. But you can choose within your world that the world conspires to make you successful. And you can choose what is true. So the individual, the individual that taught me this got very good at asking a certain question that helped her to balance, helped her to get to that spot of understanding. And that person would ask this question to herself: what could also be true? What could also be true? Her name was Anne Washburn. She works with 3 key elements. Awesome. This goes way more in depth in this kind of information. Well worth going and learning any of her information. Absolutely. She learned to ask what could also be true. And she shares a story. Hopefully, you work with her and you may hear her share the story. But she shared a story that her kid got bit by a rattlesnake and was in the hospital. And they, when she came into the room, he was mad at her and yells and just treats her terribly. And her husband stands there and doesn't defend her, so she steps out and she's really angry. And then she's able to ask herself the question. Well, she's thinking, oh, my husband didn't defend me. My son shouldn't treat me that way. And all these thoughts start to bubble up. And then she's able to ask herself that question that I learned to ask myself: what could also be true? And as she said, it could also be true that my husband didn't defend me at that point because he knew there needed to be someone to stay there with him to help him and to be there to support him in this hard time. And it could also be true that no, you cannot go through here. Sorry, kids and things. It could also be true that the kid was upset at her and yelled because he knew that no matter how much anger and frustration, everything that he was feeling, that he knew he could dump it on mom and he wouldn't lose her. And he could let all of that frustration go and mom would still be there. So that could also be true. And that was something that helped her to be able to flip the script about what she thought others thought of her. You get to determine that. You will never know what people actually think. And if you choose to think that people think negatively of you, you are training your RAS to only see the negative things people say. You're training your brain to only recognize negativity. But if you instead are able to do like my mentor taught me, to ask the question, what could also be true? The cool thing about asking questions is they make it through the RAS. Questions always make it through the RAS. And then you have a little librarian in your brain that bumps around to find out what could also be true. And it looks for every possibility to come back and tell you what could also be true. And if you're sending that with the emotion and with the feeling that you want something positive, what else could be true that's positive? Then your brain is going to bring it back and tell you these other things that could possibly be true. And you deciding from maybe it brings back several, and you can decide on the positive thing that could also be true. And then you are training your RAS, you're training this actual function in your brain, you're training your eyes, you're training your ears, you're training your senses to recognize positivity. Some of you may have a spouse that says he loves you, but then you have all of this stuff that comes up in your head that you don't believe him because maybe he doesn't speak your language very well, and what he does that shows that he thinks he's showing you love, he loves you, may not be what you see as him loving you or as her loving you. And so you may not actually trust them in that moment because perhaps you are trained to not recognize what you think others think of you as positive. You aren't trained to think that others think nicely of you, that they love you, that everything is great. And if this is one of your struggles and one of your roots that you struggle with, there's an activity that you can actually do. When I did this activity, it was actually something that very quickly I just had to write it down, and that concept was in my brain, and it started to actually work. And it has just continued to work for me. It's not something I had to like write down this thing and just say it over and over and over and over until I actually believed it. I was actually, luckily, able to very quickly grasp a hold of believing it. So here's here's the activity. You write down an affirmation, and you'll read it daily if you need to. It starts out with, I think others are. I think others are. You're going to have to unlock it from that other side because this is locked too. And I'm working with clients. Or you can go to my room. Okay, sorry. Kid coming through having questions. So the way that this activity works, I think others are. Others think I am. My spouse thinks I am, or my parent thinks I am. I think my spouse is, or I think my parents are. Okay, so here's the main things, and this is the framework for being able to do this activity. You would write down, I think others are, and it has to be positive. So all the positive things you can think about other people. I think other people are all these nice things. Others think I am, and it has to be all things that others think of you, what you think everybody thinks of you. Draw a picture. And then I think my spouses or my parents, and then my parents think I am, or a spouse. Okay. So the way this worked for me is I grew up homeschooled and around people that didn't homeschool. I also grew up very dyslexic. I'm still dyslexic. Words are not my friend. That's why I talk. I grew up with some of these somewhat insecurities that I developed myself with interacting with people and deciding maybe I'm not as good. Why would someone want to listen to a homeschool jungle freak? Why would someone want to listen to somebody that doesn't know? Why would they want to listen to me? I'm not as educated. I can't. I'm going to get up on stage perhaps and write down words that are misspelled. I'm going to do all of these things that just might cause problems or things like that and make it so people don't think nicely of me. So make sure to lock it as you go through. Are you guys locked out of that other room? You need to go through there and unlock the other side so you guys don't have to keep coming back through here. Okay, so I thought that other people wouldn't value my information, wouldn't actually value me or any of those things. They just unlock that way now. Go that way. Don't go through here. Go around that way. I'm most definitely going to have to move my space. So I thought other people wouldn't value what I had to say, wouldn't think that I was smart enough, wouldn't all of these different things, and think, oh, he's just a kid that can't spell, can't read and write. And it just, why would they listen to me? And that's what I did think. So I changed that. So I changed others think I am to others think I'm intelligent and smart and have all kinds of information. Uh, I think others are, I guess that was the beginning, that I think others are kind and loving and others think I am smart and intelligent. I think my spouse is, and I went through all the positive. And when I did that, it completely changed. I went from people mentioning things that made me feel less than. I went from experiencing people saying things about my writing or other things like that and feeling like I wasn't as intelligent or whatever to people like, wow, how do you know so much? Wow, all of these things. And they were already there. It was just that my RAS started to let through all the positivity. And I found that there was so much more positivity about what I was sharing than there was negativity. And it helped me to realize, wow, what I have to share is valuable. What I have to share is worth something. And I've seen this work over and over with clients, that they're able to do this and have a better relationship with their spouse, that they're able to do this and have a better relationship with just people in general, that they're better able to have more confidence in their life because they're not worried about what others think of them, because they know now that they're the person that decides what other people think of them, because that's the only thing they'll ever know. They do not know what other people think. Hey, so we got a caller here. Let's see who this is. You're on the Henophess Morning Show. How can I help you? This is Scott James. You're on the Henophess Morning Show. Hello?
Hello? I'm sorry, we're breaking up.
Can you hear me now?
Got it.
Yep.
You're right.
Yes, and I'm doing a morning show right now where I'm talking to people about health. And so you happen to call in while I'm live talking to people. And if you would like to ask your question live, I can do that. Or I can call you back after my next client. I will be done with them about 11:30 Central Time.
If I was asking for anything that would be pertaining, I'd do it. But this is just an appointment text I got. It just says, you want to meet at your regular time and then talk with you at 7:30 in the evening? I guess you couldn't meet at 5, whatever time my appointment is with you today.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, so I still go in the same time, but then you do a Zoom call with me later. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, yeah, I can do that. Thank you.
Cool. All right, talk to you later.
See you. Bye.
Well, that obviously that was one of my clients that's coming in later. So if anyone has any questions you want to call in for, the number is 816-826-1533. I'm not going to have time to go through all of this. So tomorrow I'll talk about some of the other routes. I'll still be, to some degree, continuing to I will still be continuing to go through the this information until the end of what we're talking, until the end of the time. Man, just gotta get my mouth moving again. I just got it stuck. Uh, uh, this Each of these different routes require different activities, different things that you would do. I think I have enough time to tell you how to do the next one, but not to give you a massive amount of detail. Okay. So the next one, what you think of others and what you think of yourself are actually very similar activities. You use the same activity, just targeted differently. But before I get into those, I'm going to delete this section right here. No, I guess I can put it down here. So you have this on how to take care of your first route. So let's see if it'll let me draw on this. Here's the activity for managing this route we just talked about. And these routes are managed by another activity. They are managed by this one. What you do is you basically write a letter. Dear Scott. Dear Scott. Dear Scott. I hate your stinking guts. You make me vomit. Your scum between my toes. Love your body. Dear body. I agree with you. I hate your stinking guts too. You make me vomit. Your scum between my toes. Love, Scott. So there's these different. What? Go away. Didn't want that. There we go. Okay, so there's these different things you do. So you write to, if you're writing to yourself, you'd write your name, okay? Or you start with dear body. And you'd write to, if it was that person, you'd write to the person. So it's a two-way conversation. We're designed for two-way conversation. Have you ever had that time when you're thinking about something that's really hard to talk about with someone and you just need to have this conversation? So you're thinking about what you're going to say, and they're going to say, and you go back and forth until you kind of sort that out. That already happens in your head. There's two ways of thinking about just about everything. And sometimes there's more. Sometimes you have to have split it into multiple personalities to talk to. Or sometimes you have multiple people to talk to. And sometimes you have to split that person into two different people. But we're not going to get into all those details. This is the basic how to do this right now. And so you will write to either your body or a person or someone you have an issue with. And you'll sort it out on paper. And then you'll make it so you could have a positive conversation with them, that you could work this out. You write, Dear Scott, and then you just let Scott have it. You tell him everything, and you do not edit. You write down the swear words, whatever comes into your head. You just get it all out and just dump it. You just get it all out, okay? And then you switch and you dump from the other side. So if I was writing to my body, I'm like, Dear body, I hate the way that you don't, that your foot hurts, and I hate the way that you make me feel sick after that, and you get stressed out, and whatever it is. You say all the nasty things that are floating around in your head that you need to say, and then your body gets to write back, Dear Scott, I don't like you either. You're just mean to me. You don't let me eat what I want to eat, or whatever it may be. And you go back and forth and you have this conversation. And it's amazing how it works. I had this client that she's paralyzed from ribs down, couldn't move her arm entirely, couldn't move her legs. And I found in talking to her, she hated her legs, absolutely hated her legs. And so I had her write to her legs, "Dear legs." It sounds so weird. It sounds so woo woo. But I had her write to her legs, and she did it. She did a really good job. And and then I also recommended some herbs for her to take. And before the herbs got to her, she got movement in her toes by riding to her leg and her leg riding back to her and making it so she didn't have so much hate. Her brain actually was okay with taking care of their legs. Her brain was actually okay with her having legs. And she literally got some movement in her toes by doing this with her leg. Then later on, I found this same person. I found that she was, every time her ex-husband would call, she'd end up in the hospital. She'd regress like 5 steps. It was always really hard for her. So I was like, okay, let's write to him. So she would write, "Dear ex." She'd write all the stuff. And then she'd write back to herself all of this. And then we talk later. And she's like, I'm writing these things down and I'm feeling stuck. I feel like I haven't fixed it. I feel like there's still more there, but I don't know what else to do. And as I discussed with her, I found out that she saw him 2 different ways. And our brain cannot accept what's called cognitive dissonance. It can't accept 2 opposing ideas at the same time. And she saw him in 2 different ways because there was the man that she was married to that she absolutely loved, that she thought there was nothing wrong. They had the perfect. And then when she ended up in her wheelchair, he comes to her and says, "I'm cheating on you. I'm leaving. Goodbye." And he's gone. And he just cascaded into this terrible person that she didn't even recognize. And as her trying to write to him as one person, it didn't work because she in her brain saw him as 2 different people. There was the man she loved that she absolutely, it was her soulmate that was just so perfect. It was wonderful. And then there's the man that, as she saw, she didn't, I had to help her understand it this way, but she saw it, but it wasn't expressing it yet. That killed this first man, that murdered him and became this terrible person. And so she had to mourn the first man. She had to let him go as if he was dead and mourn him because he was dead and gone. And so she wrote to the first man separately like this and mourned him and let him go. And then she had to write to the murderer of that man and forgive him for becoming who he is and forgive him for murdering the man that she loved and give him space to be who he was and have her boundaries. And when she was able to separate it like that and truly get out all of those feelings inside her that were between her and even being able to have a relationship with him, she was no longer a victim to it. The outside world no longer made her fall apart. She was able to dictate how these interactions went with her and her ex in these situations. And it completely changed the way she was able to operate because she was very faithful in these writing activities. Generally, you need to have somebody to follow up with because if you don't have someone to text "done" that you did it, then you generally don't get it done. If you did we have oh, that's just a message. So if you don't have someone to hold you accountable, these often don't happen as well. But I've done them myself and been able to do it really well. What you want to do is write on a daily basis. Do one of these activities and start to bring up this positivity. Sometimes you could be so overwhelmed and used up your nervous system so much that you need to start with what we talked about to begin with the nerve formula and the stress formula. With a stress formula, sometimes you need to take 3 as often as you're stressed out. If you're taking them both, generally you'll take 2 of the nerve restore and 1 of the stress formula to start to build up that nervous system. And that you take those at once, at any time you need it. But as a maintenance, it's like you need to get a certain amount of nutrients a day. And generally that takes about 6 of the nerve formula and 3 of the stress formula a day. 6 of the nerve restore and 3 of the stress You can find it at henophess.com. And generally, that's what it's going to take to fill up your nervous system. Sometimes these writing activities help a little bit, but they don't stick. And the reason they don't stick is because there's not enough nutrients in the nervous system, so we need to fill it up. And that's made my life so easy in helping clients because my dad already figured it out. I didn't have to go figure out another formula. I didn't have to go test all these things out. If you know something already that works like that, great. Fill up your nervous system and do the activities. If you already have better activities than these, cool. Do those activities, and maybe you need to fill up the nutrients in your nervous system. But this is what I do. This is what I found success with. And it's amazing the results that I've seen. It changed people's lives. It changes so much in that. Oh, good. My mic is still on. Sorry, my brain, as you can tell, can randomly go different places. There's so much that you can take control of. You can train your mind. You can teach yourself how to see the positive and let the positive through. Or you can teach it the negative. But whatever is going on, if it's happening by default, you are not in control. You are a victim to circumstance. Your RAS makes you a victim. It victimizes you constantly. It's only when you consciously recognize you have a RAS that you can determine what you want to be in your reality, and it will continue to help you to see that. And then you get to see the outside world as you want to see it. Did you realize that if in this moment, if you could feel everything there was to feel, and smell everything there was to smell, and taste everything there was to taste, that you'd be so overwhelmed by the stimuli that you couldn't move? If all five senses could recognize everything that's going on around you at this moment, you couldn't move because there's too much stimuli. There's too many things happening. Your reality, you only as a human being can view a small speck of reality of what's going on around you. And you get to choose your focus point. You get to choose what you focus on. You get to choose what passes by your RAS and fuels your thoughts and who you are. And if you do not choose it, it happens by default. And who knows? Maybe it's great, maybe it's not. But you can change it. And these are some of the tools that help you to actually change it and choose what you want to perceive in this reality. Because there's enough positive in this world to completely fill your life with it. There's enough negative in this world to completely fill your life with it. There is enough of anything you choose to focus on to absolutely fill your life with it. What will you fill your life with? Will you be a victim to your automated systems and allow them to be trained by hurts and sorrows and by abusers and by people that did things to you, that your RAS just automatically becomes whatever it is? Or will you choose to be a hero or a conqueror or whatever you want to call it? Will you choose to be something else? Will you choose to actually move forward and take control? Will you choose to not be a victim anymore and train your RAS? These are the things that will help you to do that. You don't have to be a victim. Even if you were, in a sense of, this is a different type of victim, of not necessarily a victim of somebody abuse you or other things like that, or somebody does something to you. You're a victim of circumstance. You're a victim of what you're able to see. You're a victim in a sense of reality. Are you going to have your reality focus on the negative, or are you going to have it focus on the positive? Are you going to be happy, or are you going to be sad? It is up to you to learn how to do this. Now, it's not just easy just to say, I'm going to be happy or I'm going to be sad, because your brain's got to believe it. You got to get past your RAS. And so you have to train it. And there are ways to train it to find the good in this world, because there is so much good in this world. Look for the good instead of the bad, and everything will get so much better.